Hey, Holly. I'm gonna try again too. How's your day going, honey? I don't know why this thing gives me such a hard time. Hey, Audrey. You're back from the conference already? Did you get a word? Oh. I don't know why this thing is so hard for me to do. My goodness. I'm trying to, once again, being the awkward, strange thing, to try to pin that comment, and for whatever reason, I'm tapping on it. It's not working. Ooh, child. This, what in the world? My hands are like on the screen. Oh, you are? Did you get a word? Is that why you're saying no? I don't know what's going on with this thing, child. I don't know how to pin the comment. What is going on? Okay, it's 10 o'clock, guys. How's everybody doing? How you all doing? Welcome to the show. All of my replay viewers, hello. You did? That's awesome. I'll call you after the show so you can tell me all about it. What in the world? I can't pin that comment. What is the problem? What really is the problem? All right, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Good Sex Talk Show with Coach Yema. I am your coach here to close the gap for you between your sexuality and your spirituality, because like I've been talking to you, or if it's your first time joining me, they are the two sides of the very same coin. If you're having trouble getting to know God, you're a Christian, and you have completely cut off your sexual self, it is going to be very difficult for you, because the same your sexuality and your passion for yourself and others and how you pursue getting to know others and to be known is very closely connected and almost a mirror opposite of your passion and your desire to get to know God and his desire to get to know you. So that is what I'm here to share with you, to get you to a place of celebration of all of that goodness, good ooey gooey goodness with Jesus. Also, I am the author of the book Good Sex, same title as the show. It is a single woman's guide. Doesn't matter if you have children or not. This week we're talking about sex ed in schools and all of that. So doesn't matter, but it is a single woman's guide to supernatural. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining. A single woman's guide to supernatural sexual wholeness, because there's more to sexual wholeness than just your physical body. Audrey, I did not bring my tissue with me today, so my nose, I don't know why my nose starts running. You know what, guys? I think what it is there's a lot of lights on me right now, and for some reason, like when I get hot, my nose runs. I think I do have a tissue here, so I'm gonna wipe my nose a little bit. I was just jamming out, getting ready. Did the most of my makeup, trying to do like a little sunset look. You guys, can you get into it? Can you get into it? Are you seeing it? Is it cute? Are you liking it? All right. So, rules of engagement for the show. Please like, please comment, please share this video right now. Invite your friends. Let's have this conversation. If you know anyone who is a mother of any age, go ahead and tag them in this video. Put their name in there right now so they can join, or at least it'll pop up on their news feed so they can watch and learn as we're learning together and growing together. Also, if you, let me see here. Okay, here it is. All right, so I was telling people to do the green button, but apparently if it wasn't showing up, Audrey, can you check your screen to see if it's showing up for you? I know you're driving, so if you can't, don't. But if you would like to join me and have a live chat on the show with me today, all my live viewers, there's a green button on the screen right down there. Please hit it. Let's talk. Let's chat. It is a talk show. It is not a monologue. Also, if you're shy, don't be shy, though. Hey, Leslie. Oh, yay, but it is a forward thinking, but thank you for joining. Do you know that's so funny? I was just thinking about you like earlier today. Awesome. So the green button's there. So as we're talking and you agree with me or you disagree, I am not going to take it personally. It's a conversation I'm learning as you guys are learning. So let's have that conversation. Also, let's see, what else am I missing? So like, comment, share, green button. Okay, so we're good. Let's get into the topic. Yesterday we started talking about the sex ed and all of that, and how there is a modernization, should we say, because that's how they're speaking about it, the modernization of sex education in public schools right now is going on. It's been getting rolled out for the past year or so, but really a lot of states are starting to roll it out in the 2019 school year. Also, Canada is going through the same thing, which is very interesting. So yesterday we talked about all of the ins and out of it, why people who are against it are concerned, because they're not going to be teaching abstinence only anymore. And if you don't know what abstinence is not having sex until you're married. They're not teaching celibacy only. Back in the day, there was a lot of government funding put toward abstinence only teaching in the schools, and what they found was that it wasn't working. And I posted a picture up for you guys today on the feed. I hope you saw it, where it was kind of funny though, because it's like all of the red states, right, where they are teaching this abstinence only curriculum, sex ed curriculum in schools, actually have the highest rates of teen pregnancy. So just like a clue, I know we were talking about it yesterday and wondering what's the answer if we're not going to teach abstinence only. Obviously, what the studies are showing is that abstinence only teaching isn't working. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me, put it down on the screen, let me know how you feel about that. And so what they're thinking, and they have done studies, is that when they teach prevention, right? When they start to teach contraceptives, when they start to teach delaying sexual activity, something that can rub people the wrong way, they're also teaching forms of sexual activity where you can avoid pregnancy, right? And so anal sex, oral sex, mutual masturbation, they're starting to teach that to kids to, from K to 12. Mostly the activity starts around 7th grade, where they start to teach the different types of activity you can engage in to avoid pregnancy, and nothing really prevents you from getting the STI. Nothing is gonna stop children from having a damaged sense of self, right? No matter how that works, if their home life isn't together and their parents aren't really involved in their life, it's not gonna help. So the question came up yesterday about what is the correct age to start talking to children about sexuality, because their thing is, if they can, the people who are pro this comprehensive modernization of sexual education, if they can start teaching it earlier, what would happen is that kids will start to understand that sexuality is a part of human development, which we all know as adults, definitely, obviously it is, right? So they want to get the kids started in it earlier. So for you guys who are watching, hey everyone, thank you for joining. Go ahead, put your name down and where you're from in the comments so I can welcome you to the show. Hey Dave. Dave says the age is 5, okay? Thank you for sharing that. Dave, do you have children, nieces and nephews, where you've seen that that's the appropriate age? Why 5? Let me pull this up here, because I went, like I told you guys, and looked up the... Oh, I did this really small. I sent it to myself so small. Okay. I'm going to have to where are my glasses at? I'm going to have to put the glasses on again. I didn't want to put the glasses on because my eyes are looking so, you know what I mean? Come on, Jesus. Okay. According to, so what age are you when you are in 1st grade? So that's about 5 or 6, right? So Dave, according to what the comprehensive modernization pro sex education people are saying, that is actually the correct age. And here's why. Here's what you have to start talking to children about, because when we think about sharing about sexuality with kids, we're thinking that we have to immediately start telling them the actual way people have sex and the different types of sex and all these different things. And that's not exactly what they're saying. So starting from age 5, 3, 4, whatever, it really should start in the home. When the kids are able to speak and use words, you should really start talking to them about sexuality. I know that's like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. What is the world coming to? They're so sex crazed. What is the problem? When we as adults, which is really funny when I consider myself as an adult, I'm still getting used to it. But we as adults, when we think about talking to kids about sexual like sex and sexuality, we're thinking about our own sexuality and we're overlaying that over their experience, and that's not how you educate a child about sexuality. So here's point number 1 for you guys. The thing that you start to talk to kids about at that young age is using the appropriate language for their body parts. Like for me, growing up, my mom and like people around me referred to my vagina as like my nunuge. I'm Liberian, so that's how you heard that little accent right there, okay? My nunuge, and they never said this is your vagina. And start to use appropriate words. So tell a young kid, a young boy, that's your penis. This is your vagina. These are not dirty words, because they get into school, and if you're like 12 years old and it's your first time in phys ed and your teacher's talking to you about your vagina, it's like, oh my gosh, vagina. And it becomes this like weird thing. But at a very young age, we should start teaching kids the appropriate language for their body parts, the appropriate terminology, so that, and here's why they're saying that. If a kid, a young kid under 5, right, gets inappropriately touched, and they don't have the language to tell you what's going on, or if they can't tell another adult because another adult's not gonna understand these cute little words. Yes, Leslie. Leslie says yes, body parts and gender aspects. Absolutely. So they're not, if something's happening to them, and they go, even unfortunately, some moms tell their girls that their vaginas are their pocketbook, like their little purse, like the thing that makes money for them, which is horrible. So we're not even gonna go there. That's the extreme. But these little cute names like, oh, this is your whatever, use the appropriate terms, right? For moms who are watching me, if you have kids and you have not started having this conversation with them, or you've been calling it little cute names, you're actually putting your kid, I don't mean to scare you, but you're putting your kid in a bad situation that if something happened to them, you won't be able to immediately understand what's going on, and they need to be able to tell another adult, if you're not around, what's going on. And it also, when you're telling them those different parts, it also helps them to take ownership of their body. I told you guys yesterday, when babies are like playing with themselves and you're changing their diaper and they're self-pleasing, which is we call masturbation, and they're self-pleasing and you slap their hand away, you immediately start to communicate to them that they're parts of themselves that they're not allowed to have access to. And so somebody else starts having access to it, there's shame now involved if someone's like, abusing them, molesting them, raping them. Leslie said, Tinker and Peach worked for my generation. I just thought about Georgia Peaches. Is that what that is? Okay, Georgia. So if something were to happen to them and they're like, somebody touched my Tinker, and they're trying to talk to their teacher about it, or somebody touched my Peach, is going to be like, what are you talking about? And that conversation in where your teacher or the adult that's taking care of them at the time when you're not around is trying to understand, hey girl, thank you for joining us, trying to understand what's going on with them. That frustration of them trying to explain at the age of 3 or 4, hey Ranaji, trying to explain to them, that frustration is going to draw them closer, like more into themselves, where they can't communicate, and then it becomes this private place, hey Sharita girl, this private place of shame for them, because you've been teaching them things like Tinker and Peach and your nunuge and your pocketbook and all these different things, instead of saying this is a vagina and this is a penis, right? Even when we know parents never have time alone, so there's definitely going to be a time, and there are many stories about this, where your kid walks into the bathroom when you're using the bathroom, and they're like, mommy, I was reading a story on the internet today, and the little boy walks into the bathroom and his mom is using the bathroom, and he's like, mommy, where's your penis, or like did it fall off? and she was really embarrassed and didn't know what to say. But it would have been a very easy conversation to say, no, daddy has a penis, mommy has a vagina. This is how we're different. This is what men look like. This is what women sex, like the sex of a person. This is what this is, and this is what that is. So at the age of when your kid is able to speak is actually the appropriate time to start to have a conversation with them about sexuality and sex and gender and all of those different things. We do it in like a playful way, but I think it's very difficult. Like the mom who was on here yesterday, it's very difficult for adults to, for some reason, because of our own shame that we carry, I'm sure, have the conversation. Like when we think I have to start talking to my kids about sex, they think like I have to start telling my kid about anal sex and oral sex. No, not at all. At the age of 3 and 4, start talking to them about gender, right? Another thing that is very important that we kind of like miss, because at a very young age too, you may think that you're not talking to your kids about sexuality, but you actually are. When you start to tease them like, oh, he's so handsome, he's gonna be a heartbreaker, or is that your little girlfriend? Oh my God, you're so cute. He's such a woman's man. He flirts with all the older girls and they just cannot get enough of him and all of that stuff. You are actually having conversations with them about sexuality, whether you want to see it that way or not. And so it's not disturbing. It's concerning for me, because we don't see that conversation is introducing kids into the aspect of attraction, right? Sexual attraction, like this is the gender. I'm supposed to apparently be attracted to the opposite sex. And so there's teasing around that. Here's your little boyfriend. Here's your little girlfriend. Anybody, put your hand up, put the emoji up if you had that experience or you've done that. I know I have. To your little nieces and nephews, because they're so cute and you're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be a heartbreaker. Oh, she's so pretty. Every man is gonna want her. You are actually putting those thoughts into their mind at a very, very young age. I was on Instagram today and this little boy, 5 years old, okay, he's at the dinner table with his mom and she's talking to him, and he has a girlfriend apparently, and her name is Bianca. So his mom is telling him like, you're 5, you don't need to worry about Bianca. And he's like, no, like she's mine, like I love her. And he's like, on everything, mom, on life, like that's my girl. And she's like, you don't need to be worried about it. He's like, no, that's my girl. Like that's my girl, mama, you tripping. Like he at 5, okay, having this conversation with his mom, and we're like, oh, that's so cute. But then you get a paper from the school telling you they're going to start doing sex education. You're like, no, don't teach my kids about sex. You already have started. You already started teaching them about sexuality, because you're thinking sexuality is only what happens in the bedroom. Not at all, right? So you've already started that conversation. You've already started teasing them. I remember my first dating experience, because I wasn't allowed to date, but I went to my aunt's house in California. And like they set me up on a date. I was like 13. I was 13. And they like set me up on a date, and she's like having this full-on conversation with me. Now, mind you, although I have been sexually abused as a very, very young child, younger than 6, like my mind was still in a way affected, by like my school and like my friends and everything, but I wasn't there yet because I wasn't allowed to date. So I had crushes, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, let me go on a date. And my aunt sits me down at 13 and is having this like full-on conversation with me about like, you have to start dating and you have to start going out, and like sends me out on like a movie date. It was so traumatizing for me. And it's really interesting now that I'm talking about sexuality, but it was extremely traumatizing for me because I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was expected of me. And I was just thrown into this situation because I was 13 and I should start dating. So we put those expectations on kids. Even if you're telling them not to date, there is still the conversation that you're having with them about relationships. Sexuality includes relationships. It's not just about what happens in the bedroom, right? You guys tell me what you think about how old were you? And when I ask you guys questions, can you please answer? Can you type? I mean, how hard is it to go ahead and type? Okay, come on now. How old were you when you went out on your first date? And was it forced? Like, did somebody force you to do it? I was 13, technically. It was horrible. I don't remember what the guy looked like. I was so traumatized. Like, I can't believe she's making me do this. I just wanted to go hang out at the pool with my cousins and go like dive deep down into the pool and swim on the bottom. I was still in the playful, having a good time, young girl, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to know about dating and all this other stuff. I wasn't there. My dad never had that conversation with me. I had crushes, but it wasn't like, oh, I can start dating them. It was just like, oh, it's a crush. I can look you from afar. The other traumatizing thing that happened with me, Audrey, you were 12. Wow. Praise the Lord. I'm not saying wow, like, oh my gosh, that's so shocking. I'm saying wow that you started dating before I did. Like, even though technically I didn't really start dating, I was forced. Another traumatizing thing that happened for me around crushes and my sexuality and attraction, all of those things, happened around the same time. I think I was like 14 or 15. And I liked this guy, and I was like watching Disney Channel, and I saw how like the girls will like go to their moms and like talk to them about boys that they like and all that. Leslie, you were 16. Awesome. That seems more like the appropriate age to allow, but not on your own. Like, it should be chaperoned. Like, when we talked about how courtship was so damaging, like for like young adults, I believe like group hanging out and things like that could be appropriate at the age of 16. I just was so traumatized by having to have done it. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, what is going on? But the other thing that happened for me, so watching Disney Channel, right? Seeing this model of mom and daughter and having like being able to go talk to your mom about boys that you liked. I lived with my stepmom and my dad. And so I was like at the, table, it was like lunchtime or whatever, and on a weekend, and I was like start to ask my step, I'm like, what do I do it happened like with both my moms actually, because my mom was in Liberia, and I had written her a letter about a guy I liked. Now, obviously, it took a long time for her to respond to me because it was snail mail, but I told my stepmom, like, I like this guy. What do I do to make a guy like me? And she didn't answer. She was just like, don't be focusing on that. And then like she was leaving the house and just like blurted out to my dad, like, you need to watch your daughter because she's starting to like guys. And my dad was like, what? And it was like this big thing. It completely broke my trust with my stepmom, completely broke my trust with adults, where I could never talk to them again. And then like my mom, my biological mom, sent to me, like, I get the letter and she's like, you need to focus on school. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Like, it's not real. So in those situations, my development in relationships was thwarted because my trust was broken with the adults in my life. And because there was this thing, this whatever stigma or understanding or bad thinking, stinking thinking that we have, that I cannot talk to you about sexuality, about liking guys until you're a certain age. Not at all. It needs to start around 3 or 4, okay? And here's what the curriculum looks like of what they're trying to teach the kids. I told you guys I would look it up, so I did. So here's what it is. I'm looking at my computer. I know I didn't tell you guys this time. My computer's here. So I'm looking down at it, and for whatever reason, I sent this thing to myself in the smallest font ever. Okay. So in grade 1, they're going to start teaching them the dictionary names to their body parts, including vagina and penis. In grade 3, they're going to introduce the basics of reproduction and relationships. Like, because that's around the time, like, mom's getting pregnant, people around you are getting pregnant. Like, where do babies come from? And then you're like, the stork brings them. Like, kids are not stupid these days. Don't ever, if your mom, please do not say that to your children about reproduction and relationships, including, now here's where people are getting upset about it, including same-sex relationships. So at the age, like grade 3, how old are you in grade 3? Like 6, 7? In 3rd grade? So in 3rd grade, they're going to start introducing where babies come from, not like the sex act of it, but like mommy has a uterus, the baby daddy has something in him that he puts in mom, and the baby, 8 years old. So daddy has whatever, mommy has a uterus where the baby is, the baby takes 9 months to cook and all that good stuff, and then the baby comes out of, out of mommy, either the vagina or whatever. So plain and simple, the baby comes out of mommy. So 3rd grade, they're going to start having that conversation at the age of 8. And then in grade 4, the children are going to learn the changes they can expect in puberty, like getting your period, and then they start to learn about online safety as well. So that is in grade 4. So you're 9, and so they start to tell you about when your body starts to go through changes, like your breast's gonna grow, boys are gonna have wet dreams, you're gonna start having your period. I was very traumatized on my period as well. Like I was traumatized, guys. Can somebody lay hands and pray for your girl? Well, that's why I wrote the book, actually, because I needed a whole bunch of healing. Okay, Jesus? I needed to walk through this with him, because the people I had coming up around me was not doing what they had to do and was supposed to do. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So my period story is just like, my period came and I hid it for like the longest time because I was so ashamed. Because I didn't trust my stepmom. She'd already broken my trust about like relationships. I couldn't go to her about my body, for sure. So I hid it for a very long time and was like trying to figure it out, like what do I do now and all this other stuff. And like she found out and was like upset with me for hiding it, which I was like, at that age, like, why are you upset? Like, you should know that I wouldn't come talk to you ever again. Like, you broke my trust. So and then she like told my dad again, like, oh, she got her, whatever. And I was like so embarrassed, like hid under the counter, and I'm like crawling away. I was embarrassed a lot, child. So when you guys see me out going and doing all this stuff, child, I've been through things, but for the grace of Jesus, okay? Leslie says, I was 11 when my mom gave me the book. What's the book? But today's kids are knowing basics a lot earlier. What was the book? Was there a book? I know I've read about like what to expect, not what to expect while you're getting married, but pregnant. But there is a book that Christian moms like gave their daughters that I've been reading about. Like, just read it, and if you have questions, ask me. Like, how horrible is that? Just read it. Audrey says, I think my dad told me about my period, not my mom. I was age 11. That's interesting. So your dad talked to you about your period? I know your dad are very close, so that kind of makes sense. But the people who are watching who may not know that, that's very interesting. I know my dad took me, I'm very close with my dad as well. Obviously, can you tell? My dad took me to buy my first training bra, and it was like an epic situation. I'll tell you guys that story later, but it was so beautiful. I love my papa so much. Like, do you see the smile on my face? Do you see that? He's so awesome. And then in grade 6, so they skipped grade 5 here, so I guess it goes into, and then the online safety. There is a story that I saw in one of the moms group that I'm a part of. She shared this screenshot, and moms who are watching this, I want you to pay attention. She shared, and if you have nieces and nephews too, because this is very important. The mom in the group shared a picture, a screenshot of a conversation between her daughter, her 13-year-old daughter, and whoever this person was online. And they were asking her to send nude pics, and she didn't want to do it. And they bullied her and said, well, you've already sent me and like all this other stuff. If you don't send it to me, I'm gonna post all that other stuff that you sent me. So like they scared her, and she ended up sending them nude photos. She's 13, sending them nude photos, and the mom was so distraught because her daughter had called her because she was stressed, like the daughter was stressing out, and the mom was like in between getting into the car and going somewhere, and the girl was so pressured and not knowing what to do because the person kept like sending her messages like, if you don't do this, I'm going to like post your picture and everybody's gonna see it. And that's how the cyberbullying happens, and kids ended up either like completely like missing school because they're scared and being bullied, and to the worst of where they end up killing themselves because of this. So this is, I know like we're having a conversation, you guys may take it lightly, but there is a really strong passion that I have to rescue young girls from this current darkness that we find ourselves in, and wanting to do that through their moms, because their moms really have the greatest impact on their lives right now. Like if my stepmom had not betrayed my trust in that area, because she actually was the first person I went to have these conversations about liking people and crushes and what do I do, and like that would have been the perfect time for her to instill in me confidence as a woman, or to explain to me like, this is what happens, this is, you know, who you are, this is, you know, all this other stuff. If you're feeling this way, this is what this means. And so that opportunity was sorely missed, and all of this distrust that happened led into, I'm not blaming her at all, but because I didn't have the foundation, I had to learn on my own, which a lot of parents are handing the kids the book and they're hoping that they learn on their own. And what actually that leads to is a lot of damage, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of identity crisis and issues, because you weren't able to be a good guide for them into that area. It's a part of who we are. We can't expect children to figure it out on their own. They're only learning from maybe the porn that their friends are sharing with them. Porn so easily accessible right now, is right here on your cell phone. The porn their friends are sharing with them or the relationships that they end up getting in. They're having sleepovers and people are trying different things. When the lights go down, they're rubbing on each other. Somebody has a period. They don't, you know, because the age of teen pregnancy starts at 15, right? And so you're getting your period. You're playing around with your friends. You're spending the night. I don't know, even though people play spin the bottle anymore. They probably got an older friend to buy them alcohol. And things are happening, right? And they're getting pregnant because they haven't been prepared in all of the areas of their own sexuality and their own body, and owning their body and making sure that they know what consent means. So part of the sexual education as well, I believe, let me see what grade it goes into talking about consent. Because when you start to teach a child about their different gender parts, their different things that are between their legs, their vagina and penis, you start to communicate to them consent, right? As a kid, as a baby, when they are able to communicate with you about what they like and what they don't like, it's a perfect time to start to ask permission to, can I change you now? Is it okay if I wash here? And you start to teach them that it is their decision what happens to their body. You start to teach them consent at a very young age. When they get into the stages of 13, 14, 15, and they're in the back of the bus, because a lot of stuff happened in the back of the bus in my high school, and they're in the back of the bus or on the bus, right? And conversations are happening and boys are asking, can I touch your breast, or can I touch your butt, and all these different things. They have been trained by you from a very early age about consent, right? And what good touch is and what bad touch is, and all of these different things. So in the age of, so grade 6, so you're 12 at that time, this conversation should be happening way earlier. So I don't agree with this part of the curriculum, but masturbation and consent. Masturbation and consent are really conversations you should be having much earlier about self-pleasure and pursuing your own pleasure and not being ashamed of it. Because that goes into a whole lot of other stuff, and that is the reason why I've been called into this earth. If you're not able to accept that you have the right to pursue pleasure, it goes into you even pursuing your purpose. Because we start to think like, if it feels good, it must be wrong. And that's the message we communicate to children, and we grow up into adults feeling that way. And so we want to do something, especially as Christians, we want to do something that feels good and we're happy about it. There's something in the back of our mind, because we've been groomed and programmed this way, something in the back of our mind that says, if it feels good, it must be wrong because God is against my pleasure, which is crazy to me, but it shouldn't be crazy to me because I had to study it out. Everywhere in the Bible that you read, like Jesus, God did everything because it pleased him. And I will keep saying this, he placed us in a garden of pleasure, right? In a paradise of pleasure. So the concept that we think that our pleasure keeps us from really knowing God is why we don't know God the way we're supposed to right now, right? Why we have all of these hang-ups that we have in our relationship with him, because we don't know that he is a God of pleasure. Like, he makes beautiful things. He made you, right? You're gorgeous. You're fierce. You're hot, okay? He made you and he enjoys your beauty. He is pleased by your beauty. He gave you a purpose because he's pleased to see you do it. It was for his good pleasure, his good will that he gave us these things. It pleased him to bruise Jesus Christ. God does things that pleases him. We're created in his image. And so us pursuing our pleasure, right? There's a scripture in the Bible that can get people like really messed up. Like, I think it's in Romans 1 again, where it talks about like they were lovers of pleasure and not lovers of God. The point of, and we like, okay, because the Bible's saying that we can't do it. Here's what it's saying. You cannot be a lover of pleasure apart from God. That's where the world is. That's why sex is the way it is in the world, because and people are getting high and people have addictions because they're pursuing pleasure without God, because we were built that way. And so when you see people who are addicted and you see people who are, it's addiction. So I'm pursuing alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is, because that dopamine in your brain is like getting like turned on all the time, and you just want to have that feel good feeling all the time. That's not the devil making you like want to pursue pleasure. That is God. That is the way we were made, but we can't do it without him, right? When we start to do it without him is when we start to hurt ourselves, right? So when it comes to the topic of self-pleasing, masturbation, I talk about that in the book. I have a short little paragraph on it in the book because I knew we had to talk about it. We can't talk about sex and not talk about masturbation, right? So in the book, where I come from is, why are you asking the question? Like, are you trying to figure out how close can I get to having sex without sinning? Is your mind focused on sinning? Is that why you're having the question? Or is it from this place of, I have this pleasure, I can touch myself, it feels good, is that wrong? Is there a scripture for it? There is absolutely no scripture in the Bible that is against masturbation. We saw this week there's no scripture specifically against child sexual abuse, so take that as you may. But there is no scripture that says you can't masturbate. Fornication, if you break that word down, it's about male prostitution and people selling sex. So it's not part of that. Sexual morality is about young men and older men. If you really break the words down in the Greek, that's what they're talking about. So sexual morality and fornication does not include masturbation. Now, if you are watching porn and you are feeding your brain with images, right, that are not healthy for you, and you're masturbating to those things, as I told you guys before, your biggest sex organ is your brain. So if you're feeding your brain with all these different types of images, you masturbating to that is not healthy for you, okay? There is a way that you can masturbate in your own pleasure without having your mind set on those things, okay? And if you are confused about that, send me a private message and I can personally walk you through what I'm talking about. Also, with porn and masturbation, porn is as addictive as heroin, right? When your mind thinks about it, you're like going and immediately you're doing it. You're like, what am I doing? But here's the thing. The more porn that you watch, the less you're actually able to enjoy sex when you have sex. So it's working against you. There are secular books that talk about this. There's a book called The Multi-Orgasmic Woman. There's a Multi-Orgasmic Man book as well. But it tells you, like, when you watch porn, it steals your imagination. It steals from you being able to orgasm. Hey, Muhammad, how are you? It steals that from you. So you doing all of that is actually not helping you. Also, porn shuts down the part of your brain that's entrepreneurial and creative. So when you're feeding your mind with all of that, with the porn, not talking about masturbation, but with porn specifically, it is damaging for you. And if you have an addiction to porn or alcohol or drugs, there's some brokenness on the inside of you that you're self-medicating. So it's better that, and they teach the kids, it's part of their curriculum, what I'm telling you right now, not maybe the creative part and stealing your